Graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. So we're using the y equals mx plus b. So the equations in slope-intercept form follow this structure. And then remember that m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So you're going to graph the linear equations in slope-intercept form. You're not using the Desmos calculator just yet because we're doing this through your knowledge. One of the things that's not on here that I want you to do or wanted you to do and asked you to do was to make sure that you identified the y-intercept, because you have two things that are happening. You have slope and you have the y-intercept. So I wanted you to box in, like we had talked about before in that other video. So I'm going to use red to box in my y-intercept, and I'm going to mark that y-intercept. Using a different color, I'm only boxing in the 2, and this is my M. I can put M, or you can write slope. And then it will be my rise over run. Whatever it's going to take for you to remember. So I'm going to the point of origin. It says that my y-intercept, my y is a positive 3. I'm moving up to my positive 3. My slope is going to be 2 over 1. When it is a whole number, I need to change that to a fraction. So I'm going to have a rise of 2, 1, 2, and a run of 1. And this is where my next point's going. All right. I can continue on to add additional points so that I can get a line. So it's 1, 2 over 1. If I'm working backwards, then I'm going to have a negative 2, 1, 2, and a negative 1 of 1. And then a negative 2, 1, 2, and a negative of 1. Now I'm going to be able to connect my dots as I'm looking for my ruler. Oh, I put it back. So now I'm here and I'm going to be able to connect. And I could have continued on with the process if I wanted to. And there is my line. So I graphed my line from my linear equation. Let's move to the next one. Y equals 1 over 3x minus 8. I am going to, again, box in my negative 8. I need to include that in for my number. This is going to be the y-intercept. Using my other color, I'm only circling the number, or this, in this particular case, it's the fraction 1 over 3. I am going to write rise over run just to get it into my brain to remember that I have a rise of 1 and a run of 3. I am now going to plot my negative 8, starting at the point of origin and moving down to negative 8. My slope has a rise of 1 and a run of 1, 2, 3. I have a rise of 1 and a run of 1, 2, 3. I'm going to connect my dots. And there you go. I still have a positive slope. It's not as steep as the first one, but it's still positive. It's going from left to right in an upward motion or an upward direction. This next one is y equals negative 4 minus 2. I am going to box in, or I'm going to now box in my y-intercept. I am going to circle my -4, and it's just the number that I'm circling along with its symbol before it. I am going to start at the point of origin, or I'm starting at the point of origin, and I'm moving to -2 on the y-axis. And it's right here. Now I'm doing rise over run. This is a whole number, so my rise is -4. My run is 1. So I'm changing my whole number into a fraction, still not losing its value. It will still be the same. So my rise, starting with my y-intercept, is at -2, and I'm moving up to -4. So I have a rise of -4. So actually, I'm not moving up, I'm moving down because it's negative. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have a +1 run, and I'm moving it over 1 spot. Okay, and I can continue to do that if I wanted to 1, 2, 3, 4, move on downward and move across 1. Adding points to the opposite side, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to have a +4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a negative run right here. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to have a +4, a rise of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a negative run of 1, and it's right there. And now I'm going to connect my dots. And when you're connecting them, you should see whether you were off or not. It's a really good way of checking your work. And there you go. We've created our line based on our linear equation. And the next one, I think we just had, oh yeah, we had 8. So y equals 3 over 4x. Now, we don't have, there's nothing there. There's no number there for the y-intercept. So when you don't see anything there, it will always be 0, because we don't ever write our equation like this, right? You won't ever see it that way. So you can now, using your inferencing, your reading skills, know that that is going to be a y-intercept. If you see it that way and you want to put that +0 so that you can remember, you're more than welcome to do it. Do what's best for your brain to organize your thinking. I'm going to start at the point of origin, and actually I'm going to, let me go ahead and circle my rise over run, and I'm just going to place this here only because that's what we were doing. So I have rise over run, and it's a +3 over 4. Starting at my point of origin, because it's at 0, I am going to move up 1, 2, 3, and I have a +4, so I'm going to have a run of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my first point, my second point that I'm putting there. Now I'm going to make another point, so I have a rise of 3, 1, 2, 3, and a run of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Adding more points, or more points on this side, I want it to kind of make that where I have just a couple of more on this side. I'm going to do a rise. I'm doing the opposite now. So instead of a +3, I'm going to do a -3. So I'm going to move -3. I have a rise of -3. It's 1, 2, 3. And my +4, I'm going to have a run of a -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just say I wanted to add one more point to this. So it's 1, 2, 3, and a run of -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now I can connect my dots. And there we go. There is my line based on my linear equation. Okay, flip your page over, and we just have 4 more problems to go, and we are done. Y equals -x plus 5. Okay, I really like this one too. First of all, I'm going to circle my y-intercept, and I'm going to mark it y-intercept. If you don't label, it's going to be harder because you're not teaching your brain steps. Now I'm going to circle just the negative because I know how many x's are there. There's only one x, right? So if I have a rise over run, and that's that same thing. We don't put 1x. We just leave it as x, but we know that it's referencing to a 1 being there. So it's rise over run equals -1 over, and I need to change that -1 to a fraction. So it's -1 over 1. I'm starting at my point of origin, and I'm moving up on my y-axis to a +5. Then I'm going to have a rise of -1, which means I'm moving down 1, and I have a run of a +1 moving across 1. I'm going to place another couple of points here so that I can connect. I have a rise of -1, so I'm moving down 1, and I have a run of 1 moving to the right 1. I do want to plot some more points on the other side, so I'm going to do the opposite. Instead of a rise of -1, I'm going to have a rise of 1 moving up, a +1, but I'm going to have a run of a -1, so I'm going to place my point here. I want to plot another one, so I'm going to have a rise of +1 and a run of -1 to place them on the opposite side. So remember, when we're going on the opposite side, you're going to have opposite symbols right there, right? So if it was negative, it's going to positive. If it was positive, it's going to negative. Now I'm going to connect my dots and draw my line. Well, I didn't draw that very straight. And I saw that, and it's like, no, I have it. I have it. That's good enough. It's a double liner. Okay, so, and that's how to do that one. Just ignore my first line. My second line is better. Let's look at this next one. Y equals -1/2 x minus 1. Again, same routine. I am going to box in my -1, label that my y-intercept. Circle my slope, which is -1 over 2. It's already done. I have my rise of -1 and my run of 2. So the change in y is -1. The change of x is 2. Now I'm going to start plotting. Starting at my point of origin, I'm going to plot -1, and it's right here. I'm going to rise -1, so I'm moving down 1, and I'm going to run 2, so I'm moving to the right because it's positive, 1, 2. There's my first point. Now I'm going to plot another point. I'm going to rise -1, bring that down, and run +2 to the right, 1, 2. Now remember, I want to add some points to this side, right? So I'm going to do the opposite. I need the opposite symbols here. So if this was a negative 1, it now becomes a positive 1. So starting at my y-intercept, I'm moving up 1. And I'm starting here. I'm starting where my, it's easier starting where my point is at. So I'm moving positive 1 up. Now this is, my run is going to be a negative 2, is changing from a positive to a negative so that I can plot additional points to the left. So it's 1, 2. And I'm going to do a couple of more plotting. So moving it up a positive 1, moving to the left a negative 2, 1, 2. And I'll do one more, a positive 1 up and a negative 2 to the left. And there I have my additional points. And now I'm going to connect. And there we go. I have a negative slope and a negative slope in both of my graphs. Let's look at this one here. Y equals 3x plus 9. Okay, and then there were several of you that came to talk to me about this, and I was glad about this problem here because, again, remember that if you're wanting to move up and down, you need to change whether it's positive or negative. So I am circling the positive 9. This is my y-intercept. And I feel like I'm getting this question, do I have to circle the positive? You really don't. I'm recommending so that you're understanding that it's a positive 9 and not a negative. And then if it's negative, you will be in that habit of circling it to include it and not just the number. So that is the reason why I'm doing it, because it is a reminder that it's going to be above the x-axis, because if it was a negative and I'm only circling the number, I won't remember that it has to be below the x-axis. So that's just, little friendly tip to help kind of remember of that. And that's all that is. I'm only circling the number to my slope. And again, I am writing rise over run. I think I said the word writing. It didn't hit in my brain correctly. So I have a whole number of 3. I need to change that to a fraction, so it becomes a 3 over 1, and it is positive. So I have my positive 9, starting at my point of origin, moving up to 9. Now, if I moved up 1, 2, I'm off the grid. So remember how we did over here to plot more points over on this side. I needed to do the opposite on my rise over run, right? I had to do a positive 1 and a negative 2. I will do the same thing over here. Since they're both positive, I'm going to move my points onto this side by changing my positive 3 to a negative 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, and now I have a negative 1 of a negative 1. I'm going to add a few more points on here, or plot a few more points. So again, it's a negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and a negative 1. Negative 1, 2, 3, negative 1. And I think I have enough that I can draw out my line. You can keep going if you're choosing to, but I'm going to just stop right there. And that's what that would look like. Okay. If the grid was bigger, then you would be able to add the positive 3 over the positive 1, because it's going to be about what, right here? Positive 1, it's going to be there. So as we traveled upward, yeah, right there. Okay. All right. And our last one for the evening is y equals 4 over 5x plus 2. So I'm going to circle my plus 2, mark that as being my y-intercept. I am circling just the fraction, including the negative sign. So it's -4/5. I am writing out rise over run. And guys, please write these out. Don't say I'll remember, because when we start taking a quiz or a test, it's always, what was I supposed to do? This is your practice now to teach your brain. Do it now, and it's a really great tool to have in your toolbox. So my rise is -4/5. So what kind of slope are you going to have? Very good. It's going to be a negative slope. Starting at my point of origin, I'm going to move up 2 on the y-axis. Now, my rise is -4 because it's negative. I'm moving down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm moving positive to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're wanting to draw your line, you may do so. I'm going to add another, I'm going to plot another point here. So it's a -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, +5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do want to add or plot some more points on this side. So I'm starting at my y-intercept, and I need to do the opposite now. So instead of -4, I need my rise to be a +4. So it's a rise of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's a run of, this becomes a -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was able to plot. If I wanted to do another one, again, it's going to be a +4. So I have a rise of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a run of a -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I can connect my dots or my points or ordered pairs. Okay. And that's what my line will look like. All right, that is it. I hope you enjoy your evening.